Welcome back to Movies TV Mad, and welcome to the all-new DC Universe Daily Live. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad for banter and for breaking entertainment and DC news. So who will direct the next Superman movie? Or maybe Man of Steel 2 if it is a direct sequel to Man of Steel. So first of all, let's talk about Zack Snyder, and let's talk about whether he should or should not direct this sequel. Rewind the Times. Hey Mick, welcome Rewind the Times to the all-new DC Universe Daily Live. We're going to be doing this every single morning. I want you all to interact and be part of the show, but I will be talking about the issues at hand, and today we are talking about who should direct the next Superman movie. So in Zack Snyder, we have one of the best visual directors in the game today. Zack has spoken about what he would have done with a direct sequel to Man of Steel. To be clear, Zack's original idea was to do a direct sequel, but the studio wanted Batman versus Superman, so he went with that. But he believes that the Kryptonians and Colonel Hardy are still alive in the Phantom Zone. He also wanted to bring Brainiac into a direct Man of Steel sequel. You know, inject that shit into my veins. I would absolutely love that. Now, he believes that you must always use Lex Luthor because he's Superman's #1 nemesis. But because Superman's so powerful, you always need an extraterrestrial threat. But I kind of disagree a little bit here, although I would love to see that. Rewind the Times. What about Andy Muschietti? No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. I doubt it would happen. I mean, again, I could be wrong. I'm not one of those YouTubers who does this kind of thing for fame and fortune. I would be skint, homeless and hungry if I was doing it for those reasons. And everyone has their opinions and their truth, and this is mine. I don't see Andy doing it, but who knows? I mean, Andy's still working on post for the Flash movie. You know, they're fast-tracking this Superman movie, so I can't see it happening. So anyway, so Zack Snyder, you know, as I say, believes that you need an extraterrestrial threat because Superman's so powerful. But Metallo is a human being who gets a kryptonite heart. That's something that basically is Superman's equal. Now, he may not have the powers of Superman. I don't think he does. I don't know that much about Metallo, by the way. But he would be a formidable domestic villain. But I'd be all for Zack Snyder directing a direct sequel to Man of Steel, because he is one of the best visual directors in the game. So is it a possibility for Zack Snyder to direct the next Superman movie? Well, nobody knows what Henry Cavill and this studio are thinking and what decisions have already been made. Now, bloggers, pundits, and publications believe the director has already been recruited for this film. So who knows who it can be? Zack Snyder made the first movie. But for Zack Snyder to be involved, he's going to have to make certain concessions. Would he be willing to do that? So I like Zack's idea for a Man of Steel sequel, a direct sequel. I like the idea of introducing Brainiac. We've had Brainiac wonderfully represented in Smallville with a smaller budget. We saw him represented even better, very comic book accurate, in the Krypton television series. And Bryan Singer was going to introduce Brainiac in Superman, Man of Steel, which was actually a really good pitch. I like the pitch for Brainiac in Superman, Man of Steel, which was the sequel to Superman Returns, of course. But yes, I like the idea of Brainiac being in a Superman movie. It's something the fans have been calling out for, because you could even use Brainiac to extract the codex from Superman, which would make that a very dangerous situation, having 1 billion Kryptonians, you know, on Earth. What do you do with them? So it would be really, really good. I have no issue with Zack Snyder doing the movie. Rewind the Times. I want to see Gunn do Green Lantern for sure, Brainiac or Bizarro. I think that James Gunn is more suited to Green Lantern than he is to Superman. But again, it's outside of his comfort zone. I think with him being the co-chair of DC Studios, he's obviously got his own kind of projects within the Suicide Squad Peacemaker universe. So I think he's going to be busy. But clearly he can choose his own projects, which is good for him, being his own boss. Of course, we shouldn't forget about Peter Safran. Not many people are talking about Peter Safran. I always wanted Peter to replace Hamada. I like the way he spoke about DC during the marketing campaigns for the DC movies that he and Safran Productions were making. So I like Peter Safran, and I think people are sleeping on Peter Safran, and people need to speak a lot more about Peter Safran. Rewind the times. What about Bizarro versus Superman? Bizarro versus Superman will be very unique. Why is that unique? Because Bizarro is a kind of reverse version of Superman, and you've got a lot of comedy in that. If you want to bring some fun, but some seriousness and some drama all in one movie, then Bizarro would be perfect, as long as you don't make him an utter clown, because they kind of were looking in Superman for the Quest for Peace to make Nuclear Man into a Bizarro type character. And I've seen the BTS for that, and it looks a little bit lame. But the idea is good because he's humorous. In a way, he's funny, but he's also a big threat. He's like a little bit like the accidental kind of tourist, if you like. He's, you know, he doesn't really get what he's doing. If you've read him in the comics and in the animation, he's really, really good and interesting. And he doesn't really have an evil bone in his body. But yeah, and that's what makes him a big threat. He doesn't understand how dangerous he is. So there would be a lot of fun in Superman versus Bizarro. And this is the exciting thing. We know we're getting a Superman film. It's the worst kept secret in DC right now, in Hollywood right now. So it's just about what we get. So I believe Zack Snyder's idea for a direct sequel to Man of Steel with Brainiac, the Kryptonians, Colonel Hardy returning as well, would be an excellent idea, just making it more faithful to the Superman character though. So yeah, we still don't know. So if Snyder was to direct it, who would be writing this movie? Now, I believe that Henry Cavill will co-pen the story to this movie. He's the one who chose the Man of Steel suit in the Black Adam post-credit scene. He's the one who chose the John Williams music. We could have a little conversation about that, slightly going down the line on today's DC Universe Daily Live, if you want to debate that. So that's number one. Zack Snyder would have my seal of approval, but of course he would have to make some concessions because Henry wants to really be in charge of this movie creatively. But Zack and Henry like each other. They're good friends. There's a lot of gratitude between Henry, and nobody should think that Henry has any intention to betray Zack. Zack Snyder doesn't feel betrayed by Henry, so you shouldn't, as a Zack Snyder fan, I'm not feeling betrayed. I'm not feeling that Henry's betrayed Zack, and neither should you. SBA, Mongul would be a good villain for the sequel. Yes, Mongul's another one that we haven't seen in live action, unless I'm mistaken, and he would be excellent. Rewind the times. I just don't want to see another Lex Luthor. I think it's safe to say versus Black Adam will be definite. I don't know. Let's not forget the Black Adam box office hasn't been great. So let's see what they do with Black Adam. And the JSA, and their version of the JSA, you know, the box office, you know, which will be deemed and analyzed by David Zaslav himself, will kind of make those kind of decisions. I do want Lex Luthor. He's important. Now, I agree with most Superman fans, fellow Superman fans. He should never be the main villain as he was in Superman the movie and Superman the Returns, because he's kind of restrictive. But Lex Luthor, as Zack said himself, is Superman's #1 nemesis and should always be there. SBA, who is your favorite Green Lantern? John Stewart. I love John Stewart, and this is why I'm passionate that Greg Berlanti should be nowhere near John Stewart. And I'm not a fan of John Stewart because of the color of his skin, because I don't think we should judge people because of their color of their skin or support people because we happen to have the same color skin. I'm not demanding an Anglo-Greek Cypriot Green Lantern, but John Stewart is great. But what I want to see, if we could just quickly go to SBA's point here about Green Lantern. I don't want a television series about Green Lantern. I want David Goyer's idea of a veteran Hal Jordan partnering up, teaming up with John Stewart. Now, I would love Robert Downey Jr. as a kind of an older Hal Jordan, or bringing back Ryan Reynolds as an older Hal Jordan, teaming up, you know, with a kind of a greener kind of, when I mean green, I mean someone who's, you know, just started out, a young John Stewart partnering up with an older Hal Jordan. And I want to see that in the movie theater. But I want to see a movie that represents the whole universe, because it is our Star Wars in the DC universe, and there's so much potential in it. So let's not be restrictive with Green Lantern and dump it on HBO Max. Do not allow Greg Berlanti. Greg Berlanti was part, and Guggenheim were part of the movie that flopped. Why do they keep on getting so many opportunities at DC? Rewind the times, if Lexi's got to wear that suit. Yes, Lex with the power suit. That's what we want to see as well. So you could have that kind of movie, but you could kind of have Brainiac and Luthor teaming up together, and Luthor wearing the power suit. Now in Smallville, he tried to gain the power suit, but in the end, Lana Lang got it, and she kept it, and she had powers in the end, if you remember rightly. So that was an interesting thing they did, but you couldn't actually see the suit because they didn't have the budget for it. But I still think they come up with the creative conceit of the power suit in season 8 of Smallville was done very, very well. So my next pick as director for the next Superman movie would be Sir Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi is the Richard Donner of the 21st century. If you go and watch the BTS of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, he's got a smile on his face. He just gets joy out of doing this stuff. He loves this shit. He's not one of these directors who's on social media, who's telling you what to think and what to say. He's just such a buzz of energy, Sam Raimi. And he's the closest thing to Dick Donner we have out there today. His love for Spider-Man and the way he executed Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 in general was brilliant. Unfortunately, Sony interfered with his vision for Spider-Man 3. So what happened with Spider-Man 3, even though I don't hate that movie, I think we can say it didn't have the joyfulness of the first two movies. But if you're looking for a Dick Donner type of director, then Sam Raimi would be your man. He can do it all. Horror, he can do darkness, he can do, he can do the color palettes, but he can give Henry Cavill the joyful Superman he's looking for. So Sam Raimi would be I'm not going to say my number 2 choice. I mean, I think I would say if I had a choice, it would be Sam Raimi, because if we're looking to make the best Superman film, the best superhero film of all time, then you need people who understand narratives, including the visuals. Zach has the visuals, but does he have the narrative talent? I don't think that he has. But in terms of Sam Raimi, he's got everything in his Roadhouse. SBA, Matthew Vaughn also expressed interest in directing a Superman movie. Matthew Vaughn has been very, very clear that he wants to make a Donner-esque movie. So if you want to see that, Matthew Vaughn's very good, because Matthew Vaughn can do humor, but he can do drama as well. So Matthew Vaughn, did Matthew Vaughn do X-Men? Did he do the X-Men movie after Singer wasn't involved anymore? I forgot what it was called now. I think he did. It was Matthew Vaughn, right? And he did a very good job with it. So Matthew Vaughn is another one who would do a really, really good job. He wouldn't be my top pick, but I like Matthew. I think he's a really, really good director. But Sam Raimi would be excellent. X-Men First Class. Thank you, SBA. It's always good to have fans around to remind you, because I know you lot know more than I do. But I'm passionate about these movies and about these characters, of course. But I don't know everything. And, neither should I. As the doctor says, the moment I know everything, then that's the moment I stop traveling, right? So thank you, SBA. X-Men First Class is one of my favorite actual comic book movies. So Matthew Vaughn will be a top pick. It's clear they've already picked who's going to be making this movie, who's writing this movie. And, you know, I will react accordingly when they announce these things because, you know, who directs this movie, who writes this movie is very, very important. Rewind the times. How about Jon Favreau? He did Iron Man. Jon Favreau is a very, very good director, but Jon Favreau is extremely busy right now with The Mandalorian, and he's all in on Disney and Star Wars, so I can't see Jon being able to do it. But I like Jon. I'm not sure if he would be capable of making a Superman movie, but I'm not saying he couldn't. But I don't know. But Jon is very, very talented. Scott Edwards, what's up? Good morning, Scott. It is morning here in Cyprus. We are talking DC Universe. This is the first DC Universe Daily. As DC live action evolves, so will Movies TV Mad into the new normal. Also, James Gunn has been trolling fans about the future of DC on Twitter. What's that all about? Well, he's trolling us. He's mocking us. He's having a bit of fun. Let him do it, eh? Why not, James? We deserve to be mocked, right? Anyway. So Sam Raimi and Zack Snyder would be really, really good choices. And I'm not opposed to either of them. So what about the Mission Impossible director, whose name escapes me, that come up with a pitch with Henry Cavill back in 2018? He could direct it. It would be a neat and tidy arrangement because he's co-penned the story that they pitched in 2018 with Henry Cavill, and he also is a director, so he could definitely do it. Scott Edwards, what role do you think the JSA will play moving forward? I have no idea because they're part of a movie that has underachieved financially, Scott. Personally, that's not how I would have gone at the JSA, but I mean, apparently Pierce Brosnan says there has been talks for him to kind of do another, you know, to return as Dr. Fate, Kent Nelson again in the DCU. So we will have to wait and see. Of course, the conversations he's probably had were with Walter Hamada. So plans are going to change. SB8, it's amazing how we might be getting a Superman movie and a Batman movie in the same year. Very interesting that there doesn't seem to be an exact date for the Batman sequel to start production. Now, Joker Follow You Do is going into production. I know I'm not pronouncing it right, but Joker 2 is going into production definitely at the end of this year. We're nearly at, you know, it's November the 1st tomorrow. But I'm interested with the Batman situation, the sequel, because there doesn't seem to be, you know, an idea of when this film would be released. Now, we know what year that Joker 2 will be released. Is it 2024? It is 2024. Is it 2025? It's 2025, isn't it? That Joker Follow You Do. But it's definitely got a date, whatever it is. Rewind the Times. Everyone has been mentioning that Mission Impossible director. Yeah, the only reason for that Rewind the Times is because he co-wrote a pitch. That doesn't mean it's definitely him. I mean, I think that let me be absolutely clear about this. Right now, Zack Snyder, if I was a bookie and I was giving you odds, Zack Snyder is the favorite to direct this movie. Doesn't mean he writes it. I think it would be a better arrangement if he just directs the movie because there's no one who can visualize or who has visualized Superman in the 21st century better than Zack Snyder. So there's no one better to make this kind of movie and then Henry and another writer write the story. So, and I think that's the kind of arrangement that we're looking at. Henry and Zack have a great relationship. They've worked together before. Now, Zack's very, very, very proactive with actors who want to work with him in terms of, you know, Ray Fisher was very opinionated on how Cyborg should be represented. And Zack was very, very fine with that. Now, many directors and Hollywood in general like actors just to do the job, just reach your marks. But Zack's okay with actors being part of the creative process. So I think he would work well with Henry because they know each other. So right now, I believe Zack Snyder's the favorite to take this gig. But again, that could end up being absolute nonsense. But that's how I see it right now. Scott Edwards, Black Adam has done fairly well, right? Listen, the box office itself isn't a disaster. This film isn't going to be a flop. I think when China is done, which is in November, I think we 100 million, around 500 million, just under, just over, which is solid, Scott. But for a superhero movie, that isn't great. That's solid. That's solid. That's good. It's not terrible, but it's not brilliant either. Scott Edwards, so the only Star Wars canon you like is episode 1 to 6 and the Mandoverse, right? The Star Wars content that means things to me is George Lucas' 6 movies, the animation by Filoni, which would be the Clone Wars and the one with Ezra Bridger. I like all of that. The rest of it, I have no interest in. I have no interest in Disney Star Wars at all. And I haven't even watched the latest show. I'm not interested anymore because 2 actors from Kenobi sat in a car on a camera phone calling the fans racists when they were giving constructive critiques about the show. Now, I'm sure some people were actually being racist, but the majority were saying, this is embarrassing. This is a terrible show. And that's okay to say that. As a fan, we pay for Disney Plus. We have a right to reply. Scott Edwards, even The Mandalorian. Yeah, I like The Mandalorian, yes. I like that's the only thing I like. The Mandalorian is fucking great. SBA, what do you think about Booster Gold and Blue Beetle movie? Well, listen, I actually think if they haven't added Booster Gold into this Blue Beetle movie, which I think they haven't, I think they should go back and make this a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle movie because I don't think you can have one without the other, in my opinion. So it's great that we got this Latino, PC, Blue Beetle movie and everyone's being positive in test screenings about it. That's great. I'm happy. But I do think Blue Beetle will be sent back to be reshot and rewritten a little bit because that is Hamada's movie and we know what that means. If Hamada's making a movie, it's an empty shell and it needs work to it. Although I must give him credit for Shazam. Shazam was a very good, entertaining movie. Scott Edwards. Jon Favreau has described the Ashoka series as a samurai adventure. That's fine with me. That sounds fucking awesome. I love samurais. I love that kind of stuff. So, yeah, and she is a kind of a samurai. But look, Ashoka is a really unique character in the Star Wars universe. I loved her in Clone Wars. I think she's a really good character. And as long as they don't go down this bullshit, boring, progressive route where she's holding a lightsaber and killing a bunch of men because she hates men because men are the patriarchy, then if they don't do that, I'm fine with it. Because we should be able to represent women and minorities without them, hating other people, but representing them properly and actually giving them character and personality. So at the moment, I'm writing a script for my review of the Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who, and there's a lot of that going on in that era, isn't there? The female Doctor wasn't given the intellect or the personality the male Doctors were. So that's actually quite sexist, if you ask me. Anyway, we're talking about the DC Universe this morning. Scott Edwards. Well, Filoni is the showrunner for Ashoka. Yeah, well, Filoni created Ahsoka, so that's great. SBA, what's your favorite MCU movie? Oh, wow. That's a very interesting question. I do have a soft spot for one that's not very popular, and that's Captain America, the First Avenger, where a lot of people hate that movie. I actually liked it. I thought it was a perfect movie. Now, it's not my favorite. I also like Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I think that's a great movie, but everyone talks about that one. I'm trying to think. I think The Incredible Hulk is probably my favorite one. I know many people don't like that movie, but I think it's the only time in the MCU we have a good OG Hulk. We've got one of the best actors in the game, Ed Norton, American History fucking X, baby. Wow. So a shame he didn't continue. So I would say The Incredible Hulk. I also like Infinity War. I think Infinity War is a great achievement. I don't like Endgame. I thought Endgame should never have been a 3-hour movie, and really the last hour is relevant, and they tried to make it an event by making it a really long movie. It's interesting that MCU stands were saying the Snyder Cut was too long. No, Endgame was too long. Scott Edwards, do you think Luke should appear in the Ahsoka series or not necessarily? I think he will appear because there's, this younger Luke. We've seen him in The Mandalorian now. We've seen him, they're going to use him. Do I like seeing him in it? I do and I don't. I think the CGI is kind of ropey and he looks like a computer game image. So personally, they're trying to fix what Johnson did with Luke by bringing him back and readdressing the balance. So I suppose ultimately their intentions are honourable. So I'd say, yeah, why not? Scott Edwards, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom will dominate the box office. Look at the first one. Well, listen, Scott, never make any assumptions by saying the first movie was successful, so the second movie should be. It's the one I'm really looking forward to from the Hamada movies because James Wan would have had creative control over this. His visuals for this universe are beautiful. The storytelling for the first movie was beautiful. If we go along the same lines but evolve the characters and continue to build this world out, there's no reason why it can't be as successful. Aquaman is the way DC movies should be. I'd love James Wan to direct Green Lantern because he can give you those visuals. I mean, Snyder could as well, but James Wan's narrative talents are a bit better than Snyder's for that kind of thing. If you want to bring in a mainstream audience as well. So yes, I'm very confident about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, but the box office could be hurt by Amber Heard's involvement. Now, let me be clear. I think Amber Heard is an incredible mirror, but unfortunately, the petitions against her could hurt this movie. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with her and the movie and the box office, because I ain't Nostradamus. So I think you've got a lot of potential directors that could do a Man of Steel movie and a Superman sequel. And there's some people's names that I can't even think of right now. There could be some new directors out there, who could absolutely kill it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a name. People always like name dropping people for these things, but there could be a young, unknown director who could give us an excellent Superman movie, but you have to be technically gifted. Scott Edwards said, do you think The Mandalorian is in canon with sequel trilogy, or would they ignore it or just ignore it and do their own thing altogether? If it's called Star Wars, my friend, then it's all canon. I mean, if you as a fan want to decide what's canon and what's not canon, you can. But ultimately, it's called Star Wars. So it's all canon. It's all part of the universe. SBA, what future DC project do you think Deathstroke will be in? Well, it looks like James Gunn has control of Deathstroke now. Could be involved in Peacemaker 2, but he was teasing earlier this year that he was working on something else, a little bit more darker, a lot more serious, apart from Peacemaker 2. And I think it could be a Deathstroke series, and that would be excellent. Rewind the times. Please make Zac Efron as Booster Gold. Perfect casting. Yeah, I wouldn't mind Zac Efron, but it's like I've been talking about the Superman sequel director, the Superman movie director. It doesn't have to be a name. We're all obsessed with names. It could be someone we've never heard of. SBA, goodbye, sir. Have a nice day. You too. Thank you for interacting with the channel. This is the DC Universe Live, and we are talking about who will be directing the next Superman movie. And we've talked about Zack Snyder. We've talked about Sam Raimi. We've talked about a couple of others. And, the list is endless. Scott Edwards, I read a report that Blue Beetle will be the first film set post Flashpoint. Now, this is interesting because, of course, don't forget, I think that film's released in August time. The Flash movie at this moment is set in June. So that makes sense. Now, this is interesting. Originally, Batgirl was going to be the first movie set post Flashpoint. Now, that's not the case anymore. So it would be this movie. So how this movie is represented, and I said this from the beginning, that Blue Beetle could be the new DC live action universe. It could be, because this is perfect. By the way, this is like Iron Man being the first MCU movie, because he's young, he's vibrant, he's naive, he's part of this family, and this would be a really good way to relaunch to actually launch the DCU. So I believe they are resetting this universe, and Blue Beetle will be the first movie in this universe. Damn it! I wish I did a little 10-minute video about that. I've probably done it before. I have said this before though. That Blue Beetle could be the first movie in the new DC universe, and I'm all for that. And for the mainstream audience, this could be a perfect movie to take your kids to as well, because it's about a family, a young family, a close family. And I think this could be a beautiful movie to launch the new DC universe. And I think this could be their intentions. Scott Edwards, so how does Aquaman fit in post-Flashpoint? Well, basically, obviously, look, don't forget, they've been recently doing reshoots. So because they've probably changed the new timeline, so we had Hamada's new timeline being implemented in the Flash movie. I assume now they've made changes to that new timeline. I think Keaton will still be very much involved. I think Batfleck is stranded in the Elseworld, and he needs the other heroes from the new timeline to help him. And I think that's how he's involved. And I think Keaton is still involved in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. So they will make changes, so even if you've seen a test screening, things are different now. And so we don't know how things will be implemented, but it all makes sense. Rewind the times. Black Panther and Captain America Civil War, my two favorite MCU films, fair enough. I thought Black Panther was solid. I don't think it's the film that, in my opinion, that everyone said it was, but I did like it. So there's that. So I believe we will get an announcement for a Superman director very, very soon. And at the moment, I believe Zack Snyder is the favorite. My preferred choice, as I said earlier, is Sam Raimi, because he is the Dick Donner of our time. He directs with a smile on his face. He's good with the press. The press absolutely adore Sam. He will be a perfect director, but we will have to wait and see what happens here. Scott Edwards, I wonder if Black Adam is set pre-Flashpoint. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because the movie doesn't really give many clues to that. But considering that Cavill's Superman looks so different, I would say this is set, post-Flashpoint, after the Flash movie. But no one's really talking. This is the good thing about having James Gunn and Peter Safran involved. They talk to the fans. And these are things that will be explained at a later date, because Black Adam is basically a Hamada movie. Now, I think previously when Hamada was in charge and planning things, I think Black Adam would have been pre-Flash. But I think with inserting such a different Superman in a post-credit scene, it does look like that maybe this is a post-Flashpoint movie. But of course, I could be absolutely wrong. So yes, that's a great point, Scott. You're all making great points this morning. You are here, and I'm here exclusively live from Cyprus on the first episode of my reworked Movies TV Mad DC Universe Live Daily, because there's a new DC live action universe coming, and I'm evolving with it. Scott Edwards, you think Arrowverse will be represented in the Flash movie? I did think that. Originally, definitely. I think they'll keep these little cameos, like Grant Gustin does a very quick little cameo. I don't think they'll take things out of those, but I don't know, because there isn't really an Arrowverse. I mean, Flash is going. I mean, Stargirl is barely Arrowverse. Superman and Lois have pretty much made a statement that they're not really Arrowverse. So the Arrowverse is pretty much dead. I think you're looking at a situation, Scott, that they're going to scrap all the existing DC stuff and start again. Because this is why they're calling it DC Universe. They want the TV shows and the animation and the movies to be all part of one connected tissue. And I actually agree about this. And I know you're a huge Arrowverse fans, but thank you very much. Why have I got a Lenovo flipping thing? Go away. Oh my God. The cheek of it. I'm doing a bloody video and they put a big vantage point Lenovo thing in my flipping face. Unbelievable. And you didn't notice that, but I did. And it was so, how dare you? How dare you? I'm doing a video. Sorry about that. So anyway, we are live. This is the DC Universe. We are talking Arrowverse. And yes, Scott, yeah, you've had 8 seasons of Arrow. You're going to have, what, 9 seasons of The Flash, you had 4 or 5 of Supergirl, you had a proper extended universe. So I think you've had more than enough of Arrowverse. Nothing lasts forever. It was good while it lasted, but now we're going to create a connected universe in television, in animation, and in movies. And I couldn't be more excited. And in Peter Safran and James Gunn, we've got exactly the right people. Because James Gunn has learned a lot from Kevin Feige, but he's not going to copy and paste what he did. But of course, he's his own man, which is good as well. And so that's the future, Scott. And you're either got to get on the train or get off the train. But I'm very, very excited. And I don't have any loyalties to Snyderverse, Arrowverse. I like all that stuff in certain elements, but I don't have a situation where I'm fighting for it. Right. So that's the discussion about who's going to direct Superman. So if you've got anything else to add on that, please do. But I do feel that Zack Snyder is the favorite, but Sam Raimi is my preferred choice. Scott Edwards, will you watch Flash series finale arc? Maybe, my friend. I don't really have access. I think it will be on Netflix over here, but it's not something I'm really itching to watch, if I'm completely honest. Rewind the times. David Yates, Man of Steel 2. Yes, David has been rumored. Now, I did touch on this on my live last night. I like David very, very much. He's a very talented director and was really good on Harry Potter. Also, as I said yesterday, he was going to direct a modern-day Doctor Who movie, which BBC America wanted for it to happen. I think it could happen now, but Stephen Moffat said no. And there was a big fallout by Doctor Who fans because they don't want to see a Doctor Who origin movie. David Yates has been rumoured to be doing this. David Yates is a WB loyalist. He understands the studio. He understands how it works. David Yates would be perfect to work off of somebody else's script because certainly I think that Henry Cavill and somebody else is worked on a script here. And it could be the Mission Impossible Fallout guy. Works very closely with Tom Cruise as well. So it could be him. But David Yates would be the kind of director you get in where you've already got a script and you don't want a director. This is the position I'd say Zack Snyder would do better at, just directing other people's movies. Because his visuals and the way he directs are perfect. But David Yates would be fine with me. It's one of those rumors, I think, that could have some truth to it as well. So yes, my friend, David Yates would be another one that I would be absolutely positive about. These are good directors. It's very, very interesting because if we go back to Superman the movie, which is the greatest Superman movie of all time, it's the first superhero movie, just like Superman was the first comic book character. When we look at what Richard Donner did, Richard Donner, when he took over, brought in Tom Mankiewicz, who had rewritten a lot of movies. Tom did a great job. He rewrote the entire movie. And Richard Donner purely focused on the directing. And Mankiewicz wrote the movie, the screenplay, and the story, but just got a creative consultant credit. So you got this thing where you can have a director and a separate writer. Now, what was important with Donner and Mankiewicz, they knew each other. They were good friends prior to this project, and that's why that worked. So you've got to be very careful. Rewind the times. David Yates, he directs Harry Potter films. David Yates has directed Harry Potter films. I'm not sure how many he's done, but he's a very good director. Scott Edwards, what's the story behind Superman 2? Why are there 2 cuts? Oh, right, let me explain to you. After Superman the movie, the Salkinds, the Hungarian producers, fell out with director Richard Donner, fired him. He never made Superman 2. But what they were doing while he was filming Superman the movie, they were filming Superman 1 and Superman 2 at the same time. So what happened was that Richard Lester ended up directing the theatrical version of Superman 2. But what they did in later years, there was a petition to release the Donner cut. And that's what it is. That's Richard Donner's cut that he was filming at the same time as Superman the movie. Scott Edwards, I prefer the Donner cut. It's interesting for me because it's not complete. It's not a complete movie, so they had to add back some scenes. Richard Lester's version is the first one I saw. I think that Richard Donner would have given us an outstanding Superman 2 and better than what we got. Because we couldn't see the complete vision and it's all bits and there's even an audition scene put in there. As a cut, as a film, I prefer the theatrical version, but also I have a lot of fun with the Donner cut because you get some extra Marlon Brando. They put back Marlon Brando as Jor-El, which is great. You get more Zod sequences, different Zod sequences. The one on Krypton, the different angles and stuff is amazing. It's certainly a great cut, but I do prefer Superman 2, the theatrical version. Scott Edwards, so were there reshoots for Superman 2? Well, I wouldn't call them reshoots. They basically got rid of Donner and he could, they're what? They're reshoots, They rewrote the movie so Lester could have his name on it. Hashling, me. Yo, Mike, good morning, Hashling, me. And I hope you're doing all right. We've been discussing who should direct the next Superman movie. And a lot of names have come in. We've been talking about Superman the movie, the Donner cut of Superman 2. A lot of subjects come up when you're live, and I'm happy to respond. So there's a lot of potential for different people to direct the Superman movie. I want to talk about the John Williams and Hans Zimmer debate. Obviously, in the Black Adam post-credit scene, we had the Williams theme playing. That was Henry Cavill's choice. Scott Edwards, where do you think Ezra and Thrawn have been all these years? Ooh, I don't know. I can't even remember how that show ended. Obviously doing battle, or maybe Ezra's been hiding in the desert, a bit like Luke Skywalker was. Hashling me, will it release in 2024? There's no official release date for this Superman movie. It could be 2024, late 2024 or 2025, if you were asking me to hazard a guess. So yes. So I've been very supportive of John Williams' theme being in that Black Adam post-credit scene. By God, Superman the movie was the first movie I ever saw. Love that theme, love that movie. It's the reason I love Superman today. But I do understand why some people are upset about this. And let me explain. Listen, because Superman the movie is absolutely an original take on Superman, but it's very faithful to what Superman is. But it's a pop culture icon about a pop culture icon. And I believe this next Superman movie must be its own thing and mustn't try to do what Superman Returns did, which is try and be another Donner movie. Be original. Be faithful to the source material, by all means, but be your own movie. I want this movie to be a pop culture icon about a pop culture icon, because the ghost of Superman the movie is still kind of there over all these efforts to make a great Superman movie, because they haven't completely succeeded. I like Superman 2. Superman 3 is solid. Superman 4 isn't the greatest of movies, but watching it through a certain gauge, you can still have some fun from it. Superman Returns just tries to do Richard Donner again, but I like the movie. I like some of the things he did. But we need some originality here. Scott Edwards, I want to see Margot's Harley meet the JL. Rewind the times. I've got to go back to work, Mick. Happy Halloween, brother. Happy Halloween. And after tonight, we get to build up to fucking Christmas. Because I'm not really a Halloween dude, but I hope you enjoy scaring the shit out of people. I scare the shit out of people just by going on these videos and shouting very, very loudly. Sorry about that. It's just me. But I'm unique and there's no one like me on YouTube. And that's the great thing. So I think this has been a great first DC Universe Daily Live. And we've spoken about who should direct the next Superman movie. And now we're talking about the discourse about the Williams theme, the John Williams Superman theme, and Hans Zimmer's Superman theme, Idea of Hope. So as Henry has said, both themes are absolutely compelling. But here's the thing. I understand what's like, I've come on the side of, it's great to have John Williams theme, but I understand what the Snyder fans are saying. The Snyder theme, the Idea of Hope theme for Superman is the modern day theme. and it really should be the one you're using. Now, I understand why Henry wanted to use John Williams, because he's going back to a more traditional Superman. And what I saw in that post-credit scene didn't seem like a rip-off of Donner or Reeve. It seemed like a Superman that can fit in to the modern world. So it looks great. And I think if that's the way they're going at it, that's great. Should the Williams theme be used? This is what was so lucky about the Dick Donner movie. There was nothing else there. Because we've got so much history with movies today and iconic movies, it's very hard for one movie not to be inspired by the other. And I absolutely understand that. I think it depends what Superman this is. We could use a brand new theme, especially if this is a new timeline Superman. And maybe they'll do that. And maybe the John Williams theme here was just used. So as to say, I'm back and I want to be a more traditional Superman. And maybe we'll never hear it over this Superman again. And that's totally fine as well. So, yeah, look, there's a lot of discourse over this. But I do want to be very, very balanced in these discussions. I like John Williams' theme. I think the guy who composed the Black Adam soundtrack did an excellent kind of modern day kind of version of Williams' theme as well. And it didn't feel out of place either, by the way, like some are saying. So I don't have a preference to either the Zimmer score or the Williams score, even though the Williams score was the first thing I ever heard, because this was my first entry into watching and absorbing Superman. But I don't have a loyalty to anything. I don't think it should be this or that. But the point being, I do understand what people are saying. You know, do you want to harken back to the past? Do you want to use the modern day theme? Because Zimmer's score is inspirational. But I think when people listen to it, they think of Man of Steel rather than Superman himself. And again, that's okay. But I don't know what they're going to do with these themes. I don't know, but I think you create another issue by playing it. That's for sure. Because I think it's a huge statement by playing that thing. And that's what Cavill was attempting to do. Cavill wants to be absolutely clear here that he wants to be faithful to the source material. And this is what Richard Donner was doing when he came in and took over from Guy Hamilton. Guy Hamilton, the Bond director, the Dr. No director, was going to direct Superman, but then they had to move the production to the UK, and he was a tax exile, so he couldn't be involved. So as luck would have it, we got Dick Donner, who really wanted to stick to the basics of what makes Superman beloved. The fact that people cheer him and he's an inspiration rather than a godlike figure that you can't touch. We saw it in BVS when, you know, the house has got S on it, and, you know, the woman's trying to reach up to Superman like he's some kind of God and Jesus. I used to see Superman more of a godlike, Christ-like figure, and I like that. Now I'm in a space in my life where I think I want him to be our fireman in the DC universe. I want him to be our rescuer, our protector. But I don't really think making him unreachable as a Christ-like figure really works in the modern day. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that. So I understand why some people are absolutely upset about that issue, that, you know, you're going back to the Williams theme. We've already got a great theme. I think it wouldn't hurt for whoever does the music in the Superman movie. That's going to be interesting as well. As exciting about who's writing it, who's directing it, who's casting it, who's going to be the villain, who's going to compose the score for the next Superman movie. And that's going to be interesting. Will it be Hans Zimmer again? Now, I tell you one person who I think nailed two DC movies, Wonder Woman 2017 and Aquaman. The first Aquaman movie is Rupert Gregson-Williams, who they haven't used since, unfortunately. I think he could compose another brilliant original theme. Rupert is an excellent composer, and he knows how to make inspirational music. His score with Wonder Woman, the first one, was absolutely so beautiful. It had so much love, and it inspired me, that soundtrack. And it absolutely reminds me of that movie when I listened to it without watching the movie. So I think if I had a choice right now, Rupert Gregson-Williams would be an excellent choice to score the next Superman movie. Again, we'll have to wait and see what decisions they make I mean, John Williams surely is far too old to compose a Superman movie score. But just think about this. Wouldn't it be amazing if the last score John Williams ever composes was a score to another Superman movie? To be clear, he only scored the first movie. So, I mean, apparently he's officially retired now. But imagine the news. John Williams comes out of retirement to score the next Superman movie, and how exciting that would be. Now, again, the Snyderverse stands will be going off on one on Twitter with their hot takes and stuff, but it doesn't really matter what people say on Twitter. Henry seems to be really kind of in charge in the development process on this movie, and he seems to be making most of the decisions, and I think without that, he doesn't come back. They need him. He's extremely popular as Superman. It's interesting that an actor who maybe people didn't like his version of Superman because that had nothing to do with him, but actually love him as Superman. But Brandon Routh was the same. When they were casting Superman for Man of Steel and holding auditions, there was this petition to bring Brandon Routh back as that Superman. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So he was quite popular as well. He still is very popular, Brandon, as Superman. So, yes, it's pretty amazing that considering some people don't really like Snyder's Superman, that they actually love Henry Cavill as Superman. And, you know, it's that love and that persistence from the fans and Henry himself that's brought this wonderful opportunity about. So, yeah, I am very easy about the music, but I do feel passionately like Henry does that you need to stick to the source material. He has to be this character that's in the comics rather than this real world Superman or this godlike character. But it also has to be an original movie, not a rip-off of the Donner movies and not a rip-off of anything else. It has to be original, but he has to be Superman as well. This has been Movies TV Mad with the DC Universe Daily Live. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you tonight live where I'll be responding to more of your questions and your comments. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.